Hello.
Mr. Spanarelli, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Servan, are you online?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Servan, it seems like you're on two lines. You're on the phone and on the computer. If you just remember to, for your computer, if you're going to be speaking through the phone, to keep your computer muted so that there's no feedback.
Okay, thank you.
And your volume turned down on your computer too. Mr. Spanarelli,
Oh, is it
on the
too
line?
loud?
Mr. Spanarelli, are you on the line? If you're on the line, press *3.
Star which? *3?
Okay, yep, I think I hear you now. Yeah, *3 if you can. But other than that, I think I got you.
Yeah, *3 I pressed, so can you hear me all right?
Okay, what we'll do is we'll keep your line open throughout the meeting, and you can mute and unmute yourself at will.
All right, thank you very much.
It's now 6:30. I'd like to call to order the Regional Planning Commission public hearing for July the 1st, 2021. And like I said, it's 6:30, and I'm going to ask Mr. Peterman if he'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
I thank you, sir. I would ask that if you have any kind of electronic device, phone or whatever, that you either turn them off or put them on vibrate so they won't interrupt us as we get through the meeting. I'll now take and turn it over to Sarah for a roll call and determination of quorum, please.
Mr. Peterman?
Present.
Mr. Servan?
Present.
Mrs. Karcher is absent. Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Spanarelli?
Here. Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Jester?
Here.
So you have 6 present, you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. You have a revised agenda in front of you for tonight. I assume you've all had time to look it over, and if there's no changes at all, entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mr. Servan?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Spanarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
So you have 6 yeas in favor of approving tonight's agenda.
Once again, I thank you so much, and we'll come right back to you now for the introduction and public hearing instructions.
Thank you. This public hearing is being conducted for the purpose of giving the citizens of the county the opportunity to present testimony on the applications before the Regional Planning Commission. Everyone will have a chance to speak. All statements are to be made from the podium at the front of the room. All testimony given shall be sworn or affirmed. For the record, please give your name and address. Copies of any written statements or exhibits used during the hearing should be presented for identification and inclusion in the record. The record will remain open for 2 business days following the hearing. For each application before the commission, the chairman will introduce the application. Then the applicant or representative will be given 15 minutes to present the application. Then those in favor of the application will be allotted 5 minutes each to speak. Then those opposed to the application will be allotted 5 minutes each to speak. When everyone has had an opportunity to give testimony, the hearing on the application will be closed. No decision will be made by the commission tonight. The commission will hold a public business meeting next Thursday, July 8th at 6:30 p.m., at which time it will make a decision on the applications heard tonight. All information of record will be considered, and a common vote of 4 members of the commission is required to make a decision. Anyone may attend the business meeting, but no new testimony will be received. The public notice of this hearing was published on June 11th, 2021 in the Delaware State News, and the levy court will hear these applications on Tuesday, July 27th at 7 p.m. unless tabled by the commission or withdrawn prior to the levy court hearing. The levy court also meets in this room. And I should note one last thing for anyone joining us via WebEx. At the appropriate time during public testimony, please press *3 to raise your hand to be recognized, and *6 to mute and or unmute yourself. We'll give a reminder as we go through the public hearings. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you again. We'll now get into our public hearing. Our first 2 applications tonight are ones that always are so much fun for me to see come here in all of their ag preservation land where the families are putting their land aside so they won't be developed. So we're going to get right into the first one. The first one tonight is actually application AP-21-03. District name is Dempsey Farms Number 2 District. K-21-04-295. Owner applicant is Dempsey Farms LLC, 1708 Fast Landing Road, Dover, Delaware, 19901. Present zoning district is AC, Agriculture Conservation. Proposed is same with an Agriculture Preservation Overlay, AP10. Levy Court District is first, Mr. Maston. School District is Smyrna. Fire District is Clayton. Area and location is 236.2 plus or minus acres on the south side of Millington Road, Delaware Route 6, approximately 4,630 feet west of Alley Corner Road, west of Clayton. Is there somebody here tonight to represent this application? Customarily, a lot of times they don't come, and they're very easy to go through anyway. I will call it another time. Is there anybody here to represent this application? Seeing none, I'll move over to the opposition. Is there anybody here that opposes this application? Anybody here that opposes? Anybody opposes? So we'll take up this particular application in next week's. Excuse me. Oh, we have online? Is there anybody online that is for or against this application? Please raise your hand.
If you're joining us by phone, you can press *3 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. If you're joining via computer or mobile device, you can find the instructions in the chat window to raise your hand and unmute. It appears there's no public participants or anyone who would like to speak on the WebEx at this time.
Okay, then once again, we'll take up this application next week at our business meeting. Our next application is application AP-21-04. District name is Big Ditch Farm District, K-21-05-296. Owner applicant is Matthew T. Porter and Laura L. Williams, 875 Chimney Hill Road, Felton, Delaware, 19943. Present zoning district is AR, Agricultural Residential. Proposed district is same with an agriculture preservation overlay, AP10. Levy Court district is the 6th Howell. School district is Lake Forest. Fire district is Farmington, Station 47. Area and location is 230.8 plus or minus acres on the north side of Gallo Road, approximately 2,730 feet southwest of Andrewville Road, west of Farmington. Is there somebody here, either in the audience or on the phone, representing this application? Seeing none, I'll ask, is there anybody else here that's for this application, either on the phone or in person?
Again, there appears to be no one on WebEx that would like to speak at this time.
Is there anybody opposed to this application, either on the phone or here in the audience? Anybody opposed? Seeing none, we have one. You have to come up to the mic. You'll give your name and give your address, and our attorney will either swear you in or affirm you. You have to pull the mic up to your face, too.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carol Evans. My address is 689 Gallo Road, Harrington, Delaware, 19952.
Yeah. Ms. Evans, you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. I just was hoping the owners of the properties in question were going to be here. My concern is it is already an agricultural use. I live on Gallo Road, right in front of the one parcel or tract of land. And I understand the intention is to put this in preservation. And by doing so, I understand that they cannot develop this property. Is that correct, as far as subdivisions?
You can talk to Sarah, but that is correct.
Ms. Sarah?
Yes, it will be prohibited from future major subdivision. It is possible to potentially cut off 1 or 2 lots, depending on the program they're a part of.
Okay, and what were those cutoffs could be proposed to do?
No, to create another residential lot, but the amount of development is limited by the state's program.
Okay, my main concern is since this is agricultural and they're going to keep it in that as a preservation, the intentions for future chicken houses pops in my mind, and I see a lot of new chicken houses going up around the area. I'm licensed with DENREC. I do septic work, and I've worked with some of the homes that are for keepers for these chicken houses. And my main question was, are there intentions of the owners to develop chicken houses on these tracts of lands?
I can't speak to the intention of the owners. It would certainly not be prohibited by the county.
Okay, if this was passed, the owners get their preservation granted, they do have that opportunity to develop with chicken houses, correct?
I can't speak for the state program. I do not believe it would be prohibited.
Okay. My second concern is I've lived there for probably 25, 30 years on Gallo Road, and the field behind me has always been agricultural. But it's also, was concerned because I wanted to know if an archaeological study has been performed on any of these tracks. I have with me relics from Native American that were found throughout the fields, and I didn't know if that could be of some concern to the levy court or to the county with these artifacts. I worked for the Soil Conservation Service as well for a few years, and they realigned the Marshy Hope ditch, which is one of the larger ditches out my way, a lot of people's way. And when the Soil Conservation Service realigned it, they also found a lot of Native American artifacts. And my concern is to make sure that we can preserve our Native American heritage and artifacts. If there was any studies proposed on this property, maybe? Or
Not to
could
my
be?
knowledge, and certainly if it's going to remain in agriculture, it's unlikely.
Okay. And
My suggestion to you would be, being involved with these, with surveys a lot, is to contact the Ag Department, the preservation in the Ag Department, the one that's just north of Camden there on the
Yes,
South Bound
yes.
Lanes, and they should be able to answer all these kind of questions that basically we don't have complete knowledge of.
Okay, well, I was hoping the owners would be here so I could direct my questions to them. And my last question, are you familiar with tax ditch right-of-ways?
Very much so. I used to be a tax ditch, head of a tax ditch, and I'm also head of one of the Black Arm, which is the Marshy Hope Drainage.
All right, so you know all about the Marshy Hope?
I'm
All
afraid
right.
so.
I was just curious if any of the tax ditch right-of-ways, if the owners have requested any reduction in setbacks on these tax ditch right-of-ways on these tracks?
Once
Any-
again, I would advise you to contact the Conservation District, which is on the northbound lane right there opposite Rodney Village.
I do know.
And talk to them, and they can advise you on anything dealing with tax ditches.
Okay. Those were my questions and concerns. I wanted to put them on record. I don't know if they will be on record, but I would hope maybe the property owners were going to be here to answer. So, thank you.
I thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else has any question or comments? Anybody on the phone? I think we've already covered that. Don't seem to be anybody there. So we'll move on, and we'll actually be voting on this project next week. The next one, I assume, is what everybody in the audience is waiting for, it looks like. And I appreciate you all coming out on such a challenging night with the weather like it is. I will now read the project into the minutes. This is actually ordinance number LC 21-10, application number and name CZ-21-03, MKJ Properties LLC, applicant owner MKJ Properties LLC, care of John Forrest, 37 Marion's Way, Felton, Delaware 19943. Engineer is the Becker Morgan Group. Attention J. Michael Riemann, 309 South Governors Avenue, Dover, Delaware 19904. Present zoning and comp plan designation is AC, agriculture conservation, low density residential. Proposed zoning, comp plan map designation is BN, neighborhood business, neighborhood commercial. Relation to the growth zone inside. Levy Court District is the 5th, Mr. Sweeney. School District is Cesar Rodney. Fire District is Felton, Station 48. Area and location is 9.52 plus or minus acres, located on the north side of Irish Hill Road and on the west side of Peachtree Run, east of Viola. Is there someone here to represent this application, please? Come to the mic, give your name, and you'll either be sworn or affirmed unless you're an attorney.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. John Tracy from Young, Conaway, Stargatt, and Taylor here, not on a cell phone application. As an attorney, I've been sworn at frequently, so I don't think I need to be sworn in.
Understood. Me too.
I have with me, to my right is Mike Ryman, who's the project engineer. Sitting behind him is John Forrest, who's the property owner and the applicant for this property. I believe we had sent to Ms. Kiefer's staff a PowerPoint that we can kind of run through briefly with regard to this particular application. But as was read into the record, this is an approximately 9.5 acre parcel that sits at the intersection of Irish Hill Road and Peachtree Run Road, currently classified as AC, proposed to be rezoned to BN. This is a rezoning based, I got this one too, thanks. I was just to move it up. I am technologically incompetent, if you may remember, so a garage door in Kansas may go up when I try to use this, but, and yes, that is the same joke I used to use 15 years ago. This is a rezoning, though, that's based on some language in the comprehensive development plan that seeks to encourage, in certain instances, rezonings of this type, and in particular for this parcel. Okay, so I already told you. How do you move it up, Sarah? There we go. The BN classification, as the RPC is aware, is what I would call the lightest form of commercial zoning, in the sense that it's really targeted for neighborhood commercial uses, not highway-oriented businesses. As you can see from the first slide, the property is marked with the star in the middle, but it is in a rapidly growing area that is somewhat distant from any of the nearby commercial hubs where you could go to get items that you may need, or go to a doctor's office if that's where it's located. You see the three highlighted areas that we have there: Woodside Light, Magnolia, and Canterbury Light. I will also note that about a mile above us, I think there is a single store, or perhaps a combined convenience and liquor store that's in that area, but it's generally a commercial wasteland, so to speak. You can see all of the development that's around. I'll also note that the farm field that is immediately to the left of the star is also the subject of a development application unrelated to this. It's the Knollwood subdivision that was approved a long time ago and is now, my understanding, is going back in and getting reapproved. As the next slide would show, and I don't know if I'm controlling it or you guys are controlling it at this point. There we go. This is, I'm just going to direct to Ms. Kiefer then. This is a close-up of the property itself. You can see the property outlined in blue, Irish Hill Road below it, Peachtree Run Road to the right. You'll see a standard T intersection there at that location. What is somewhat not visible, but I think you can see, is actually running to the immediate west of this property boundary is the location of relocated Peachtree Run, which was approved by DelDOT some time ago, and was actually, somebody did some level of construction there because there's a roadbed in that area. That road is gated off. It's not used. It's not built to DelDOT standards, but that is where Peachtree Run Road is ultimately going to be located or relocated. That is not something that has anything to do with this project. It was something that was in the works long before. I will also note we had a community meeting where DelDOT attended last month, and you can see where I'm pointing the red dot here. That is actually going to be proposed by DelDOT to be a roundabout. Again, it's unrelated to this project, but they had, when they came to the community meeting, they had examples of what that's going to look like. That will probably have some impact on the property, but until those plans are finalized, we won't know what that is. Moving on to the next slide, this shows what I think was just referenced previously, the fact that we lie centrally located within the growth zone. The growth zone, as the commission knows, is where growth and development is encouraged in Kent County. As you saw from the earlier slides, the residential growth certainly has focused here, which now leaves the need for some close-by neighborhood commercial uses to help prevent longer trips to get certain things, and that's what this application is attempting to address. As the next slide shows, we, with the invitation of Commissioner Sweeney and Buxton, held a community meeting roughly a month ago to discuss this proposal. We were aware of some concerns that were circulating around about the proposed rezoning, and so we wanted to come bring that in front of the community and then also listen to those concerns and try to address some of those. I highlighted a few of the expressed concerns at the meeting: businesses operating 24 hours, some of the potential uses that could be permitted under the BN zoning, buffering, and then the fate of Old Peachtree Run Road. So we had a dialogue about those items, and as the next slide will show, I followed up with my point of contact, who is with the Chestnut Ridge Homeowners Association, to give them some commitments of things that we were willing to exclude from this property, because these are types of things that were generating concern. So you can see 24-hour operations was one, a liquor or package store, a standalone tavern or bar, gas pumps, and then some of the last items, which I don't know when those were ever built in the last 20 years, but they're still listed in the code. I will note a couple of these uses that we specifically agreed to exclude, and we're willing to exclude either through a deed restriction, a note on the plan, a condition on the rezoning, whatever it would be. I will tell you that it's highly unlikely that a liquor or package store could locate here. The state ABCC laws were changed within the last couple of years. It used to be 9/10 of a mile between liquor stores and unincorporated areas. It's now 3 miles. There has to be a 3-mile separation distance for a new store that's coming in. There are 2 liquor stores within 2 miles of this site, meaning a liquor store could not locate at this location, but we did agree we would restrict against it in case one of those goes away and there's a potential. The other is gas pumps. I know there was concern in the blogosphere about Royal Farms or Wawa coming to this location. It's not an ideal location for those types of uses, because despite the fact people sitting there might think there's a lot of traffic, it's not enough traffic to justify a Royal Farms or a Wawa. They look for higher traffic areas. But the other thing that I wanted to point out is gas pumps for BN zoning is a conditional use, meaning if anybody wanted to locate gas pumps on this property, they'd have to come back through essentially the same process that we're going through now. But we did agree to restrict against that use. The other concern that was raised, which really doesn't have anything to do with the rezoning, but it was a topic of the conversation, at least for folks in Chestnut Ridge, is the fate of Old Peachtree Run Road. You'll recall that's the straight road running north-south to the right of our property. When they relocate Peachtree Run Road, presumably DelDOT will then vacate the old roadbed. They don't want to maintain it. That's typically something that's split between property owners, which we were fully comfortable doing. However, there was some indication from the board of the HOA that they didn't want the added responsibility of maintenance of that property. So we committed again, if it's something they don't want to, if it happens and it's something they don't want to be involved in, we will take title to the whole roadbed 50 feet, and we'll landscape the 25 feet that they would have otherwise got, and there'll be something that we would maintain. So that's another commitment that we made. Moving on to the next slide. Again, I had referenced that this was a rezoning that was triggered by language in the Comprehensive Development Plan, in particular Map 7C of the Comprehensive Development Plan, which identified properties that would be appropriate for rezonings to different types of uses depending on the classification, depending on where they were. And there, for these types of rezonings, there is a 4-part standard that governs evaluation of these requests. And I recognize that the department has already prepared a report which addresses all of these criteria, but I wanted to go through them briefly as well. The first one that's highlighted on this screen talks about change in character of the neighborhood. And what you'll see in just a second, and as I've alluded to previously, there has been a rapid expansion of growth in this area, hundreds if not thousands of either approved lots or constructed homes with no commercial services serving them in a convenient nature. So if you look at the next slide, this is from 2008 when the Comprehensive Development Plan first identified this property as a potential for commercial use. You can see construction and you can see farm fields, and then you move on to the next slide, which is the 2018 aerial photograph, and you can see more of that development is filling in, plus you can see reference there, for instance, to the Knollwood subdivision, which again was approved at one time and is going back through the process. I will also note that the undeveloped green portion, the green rectangle that's above our property, actually has approved lots on it. It's part of the Woodfield subdivision, but those have not been constructed yet. Moving to the next slide, this is the comprehensive plan compliance, and as I mentioned, this is something that has targeted this property for the relief that we are seeking right here. And so the next slide highlights that, I think, in complete detail. So these are excerpts from the 2008 and from the 2018 comprehensive plan, and you can see right here they have a highlight on the intersection indicating potential for neighborhood commercial use, and then you can see again up where we have circled, again, this is an area that's highlighted for neighborhood commercial use, and it makes sense. It's at an intersection of two fairly heavily traveled roads. It's a property that's really not conducive because of its shape and the fact that it's bordered at the moment by 3 rights-of-way for residential development, but because of its location at this intersection, particularly an intersection where DelDOT is planning a substantial improvement, that it would be an ideal location for neighborhood commercial type of uses such as would be permitted in this area, excluding the uses that I've identified. So again, this is something that's been identified as an appropriate use since 2008, and we're coming forward now. The next slide, we're tying in the last, and this refers to what I had shown earlier, again, about the commercial distances. These are 1 mile radius and 2 mile radius circles, and you really see only one other than the one that I mentioned that's not identified within the 2 mile radius, and then you see others further away. And I recognize, for instance, that people had pointed out, well, we have lots of services within 2 to 5 miles of where we are. That's actually one of the things this provision of the comprehensive plan was trying to address. It's trying to avoid having to make 5 or 10 or 12 mile round trips to go back and forth to get basic services or to go make basic appointments. And that's one of these things that this rezoning can accomplish. It can't solve all of them. You can't put every use on 9.5 acres, but you could certainly create the opportunity for those uses to be nearby. The next slide, as I previewed earlier, these are the last 2 standards for this type of rezoning. One is that there's adequate facilities in the area, and as the department's report noted, we were within the sewer district. In addition, there's water service available for Tidewater. There's also DelDOT improvements planned for this area, separate and apart from what we need to, what would be done for us. As I think the commission is aware, there's no need for a traffic analysis at this point because there isn't a particular use identified, but when a use is identified and they have to go back through the land development process, there will be traffic analysis of that use and, of course, participation in any improvements. And then the last standard is compatibility with surrounding properties. Again, the comprehensive plan has called out that this small neighborhood commercial development in this instance would be beneficial to the surrounding communities and is intended to support these communities by providing general retail close by. In addition, one of the specific elements of the BN zoning district, as I noted, is to reduce transportation costs by providing retail and service uses adjacent to residential uses. And again, as we've talked about, that is what is occurring here. I wanted to also note that the comprehensive plan reiterated that element as well, with the idea of locating the commercial uses here in order to reduce these costs and reduce the trips, which is what we're trying to do. The last slide is really just for illustrative purposes only, because nothing is proposed on the property, but when we met with the community, we wanted to give them an idea of how the property could be developed. And again, this is showing a T intersection here, or a 4-way intersection, which is going to be a roundabout, which will have an impact on the layout. This is showing 3 potential uses. It's showing an individual pad site, like a restaurant site or something like that. a small commercial building that could have multiple or one use in there of general retail nature. And then what we're showing back here would be like a daycare or childcare center as well. Again, these are just proposed things that you could do on this site. We're not making the representation that this is what it is going to be, but I think it's helpful to kind of visualize how you could do something on a property such as this. Again, we didn't show the disposition of the roadbed. We obviously are showing a landscape buffer here, but that buffer could obviously be pushed out, as I mentioned, if Peachtree Run Road is vacated and if Chestnut Ridge does not want to take title to that area. So I think with that, I will pause and allow you any questions. I don't know if, John, if you wanted, sorry if you.
I have a question for you, sir.
Sure.
Being we have two homeowner associations in both communities, have they had a copy of this PowerPoint? Have you printed it out so that their homeowner associations have had a chance to see it?
We distributed stuff. We distributed to staff. We distributed to the two levy court commissioners for the district. We don't know where it went from there. I did send the information in the letter to the Chestnut Ridge folks. We hadn't sent the PowerPoint because we just finished the PowerPoint yesterday.
Yeah, just once again, as being open and being, you know.
Oh, yeah, no.
So they all know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because I guess with your conversations with DelDOT, eventually they're probably going to close the end of Peachtree and make the circle down at the other end, correct?
Yeah, I think back in the day, I was actually involved in the original Knollwood approval in the mid-2000s, and I thought there was going to be a roundabout here when that approval was done. And then sometime later, they went with this road, which, as I mentioned, there's some portion of that roadbed that's been constructed, but nobody really knows how or why. And it certainly wasn't approved by DelDOT. And as I mentioned, it's gated off right now if you drive by it. But DelDOT has made it clear that that's going to be the ultimate realigned portion of Peachtree Run Road. And then there is going to be, they showed, we don't have it, we asked for it because I would have loved to have shown it here, but they did a display of what a roundabout would look like in this particular area.
I mean, that would be a great asset to Chestnut Ridge because it'll quiet that end of the roadway in back of their houses and make it much more peaceful than all the traffic they have, because I'm very active in Felton Fire Company, and it's very challenging to get out there now with all the traffic they have the way they do it.
They had mentioned, I mean, folks had mentioned that there had obviously been some collisions at the intersection between Peachtree and Irish Hill, and that's part of why DelDOT, again, was advocating for the roundabout that they're going to be constructed, because that tends to reduce the 90, as you, I'm preaching to the choir, reduces the 90-degree collisions and starts getting, hopefully, glancing blows. So, but, you know, again, that's DelDOT, that's not us.
Well, while you're up there, I'll ask the commissioners. Mr. Davis, I think, has a question for you.
Sure.
I'm just a little concerned about a couple things here. I didn't see a lot of information from DelDOT other than your statement saying the roundabout, which personally I don't like them myself. I think they're very confusing. But the bigger question I have on Irish Hill Road, does that road have a shoulder to it?
I'm looking at my engineer who's nodding yes.
Was that a yes?
My engineer has communicated to me yes, so I will say yes, quoting Mike Ryman.
Okay. Are there any other comments from DelDOT with you and the engineers regarding any road improvements? Because if I'm not mistaken, that's a pretty old road. So I'm kind of curious as to what upgrades, because there's a lot of development, as you mentioned, in that area. Not so much, you don't have a big spot or big development, but as you said earlier, over the years it's been building up and building up. And I've been on the commission for a long time, and one of the biggest concerns is signalization, the traffic on the roads, how fast to go. So I'm really concerned about the transportation issues. So if you can address that, fine. If you can't, that's right.
Yeah, I'll give an introduction and let Mike follow up with that. I mean, as the commission knows at this point, traffic will be formally evaluated, A, if this is approved, and B, a land development plan comes in, that's when they will look at it. But I am aware of several different roundabouts that are targeted for Peachtree Run Road. I am aware of the realignment of Peachtree Run that we're showing on this example. I am aware of the traffic circle that was shown, that I referenced at the intersection of Peachtree Run and Irish Hill Road. But what I will do, Commissioner Davis, with your blessing, is I'll let Mr. Ryman come up and respond to that. But I can also say, I believe we have a couple of days to get additional information to the commission. So to the extent we can dig up some additional information on that, I'd be happy to share it with you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Your name and
Name and
address.
address.
And Attorney will.
Yep. Mike Ryman, 309 South Governors Avenue, Dover, Delaware.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Proceed.
Yep. So just to expand a little bit on that as it relates to the improvement. So we know that DelDOT is already making the roundabout improvement at the new location of Peachtree and Irish Hill. I don't know if this is hitting the pointer there, right here. So we know that. And as part of that, this frontage would also be widened to DelDOT standards as part of that process. They may, depending on the timing of projects, ask for us to contribute towards that. That's pretty typical. So if DelDOT has a project that's in the works and a development project comes along at the same time, it's usually pretty common that the private development project would have to contribute towards those improvements. Likely, Knollwood, which is this property right here, is going through the process to get reapproved now. It is likely that that project too would have to contribute to that project. As it relates to Irish Hill Road, that is our frontage. And DelDOT does have a requirement in the manual about upgrading the frontage of your project to meet the functional classification. That is considered a major collector roadway. Major collectors require 12-foot lanes and 8-foot shoulders. I don't know the exact dimensions of what's out there now. I think it varies a little bit. But we would be required as part of our entrance and development application to make those improvements and likely contribute to the current DelDOT project. That's pretty typical.
Does any other commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Mills is next.
Okay. Yeah, the question I got, of course, I sat home and I read all of this, and certainly my first mind came to the fact that, and I know all this area, I'm very well familiar with it, that the developments there are very nice developments, very nice homes, and very respectable developments. And then there's another one going in right behind this one, wherever the drawing is, and I'm sure it's going to be the same as the others. Now, my first thoughts when I read all this, what's going to go in on that piece of property? Now, you did address that. What you're not going to have in there, and that was in my mind, well, that's probably what's going to go in there because it's going to be commercial property, and you did address that. Now, will that become a restriction on that property?
We've offered to make it either a deed restriction or a condition of the rezoning or a note on a plan, whatever it needs to do to be the commitment. That letter has gone to Chestnut Ridge on my letterhead. It was authorized by my client who doesn't live far from here, so he lives in this area as well. So yes, to answer your question, it will be a restriction of some kind, be it a deed restriction, a note on a plan, or a condition to the rezoning. And any one or all of those things, we're willing to do that.
So, if that's the case, instead of this becoming commercial property, couldn't it become, if you're going to do what it says there on the, what you're showing up there, proposal, wouldn't it be a lesser zoning change to general business rather than commercial?
I'm going to defer to the department, but my understanding has always been that business neighborhood is the lowest classification of commercial. Like, the only thing lower than this in the scale would be residential.
Likely, yes, but certainly if you're comparing general business and neighborhood business, this is far less intense than what general business would permit.
This is, if you look at the permitted uses within BN and you strike out the ones that we're willing to strike out, and then you look there and you see a few others that are probably never likely to happen for a whole host of reasons. It really is your neighborhood uses. You know, bakeries, antique shops, general retail, offices, like medical office. That was something that a couple people from Chestnut Ridge had suggested. It's not your heavily highway-oriented types of businesses. And the other part of it is the reality, the property wouldn't have been big enough to support those things. I don't even think in its current state it could support something like an Aldi, because they're going to bigger properties than 9.5 acres before DelDOT has its impacts on there.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. I think Mr. Peterman?
Sir, I know that's just a conceptual site plan picture you got up there, but do you intend to have a buffer zone around that? Like, it appears to me you got trees around it all the way to buffer from the other developments.
Absolutely.
Again, those other developments count on that? That's a guarantee that that will be there?
Yes, I mean, as I said in my letter to Chestnut Ridge, as I said in my letter to Chestnut Ridge, if they did not, for whatever reason, want that portion of Old Peachtree Run Road, we would have a landscape buffer in there 25 feet, and then we would have landscaping around both sides, code required and enhanced, particularly on the side where there's potential residential in the future that's not there now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, again, it's what we believe, and I know it's what my client believes, is what neighborhood commercial should be. You're not trying to drop a Home Depot in the middle of something. You're trying to do something that blends with a neighborhood.
Yeah, because if this does pass, you'll be coming back with a site plan anyway.
Correct.
With the road designs and all like that.
Correct.
Is any of the commissioners on the phone have any questions? Any of the commissioners on the phone?
Yes, it's Mr. Servon.
Go ahead, Mr. Servon.
I have a question, I guess it's for the planning department, about the present zoning of agricultural conservation. How does that, what are the requirements for that, and can that easily be changed? I'm not that familiar with that designation.
The agricultural conservation designation,
Yes.
Agricultural conservation and agricultural residential is what most of the county is zoned, and allows certainly all agricultural uses as well as residential uses.
So there's no restrictions on it?
No, but the question before the commission is, should the land use designation be changed, the zoning designation be changed from the agricultural conservation to neighborhood business, which would allow a different set of uses.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody else, Mr. Davis?
I just want to make a comment because the problem I say when these issues come before the county, particularly the planning commission, and the staff says, that it can go there. What gets everyone upset and excited, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes they just don't know. If you tell people up front what's going to be there, it takes a lot of that pain away. Because when you look at the GB, the BN classification, and I think even in the package there's a list of what can be in there. It can be any one of those, and I think GB, there's 125 businesses can go in there. This is a lesser category. But, if developers would come in here and be upfront, I just find it hard to believe that a developer would purchase the land and not have no idea in his head what he plans on putting there. That may be the case here, maybe they don't know, it's speculation. But the problem we run into, we have a lot of people here tonight live there, and I can tell you those people are against that project. So, just keep this in mind in the future. Just be upfront about it and tell the people it's going to be one of 5 things. Everybody sits out at night, they got concerns. I know about the traffic because Irish Hill has been a problem for 20 years. And hopefully DelDOT will correct it. But it's just information that if you know what it is or what generally is going to be there, you ought to tell the people right up front, this is what we plan on doing. And if that's not the case, then move on. Thank you.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Davis. This is not a recent purchase. Mr. Forrest has owned this property for a number of years. It's kind of that catch-22 in the sense of, sometimes you have a developer with a project attached and they come through, and you've seen me in front of this board a number of times, and almost always it's been with a project attached that I can talk to. This is one of those situations where it's been identified to be changed to commercial for some time in the comprehensive plan, and so he's moving forward. It's kind of a catch-22 of, do you wait around for somebody who may not want to get involved because it's not zoned the appropriate way, or do you go ahead and zone it and do what we've tried to do here, which is let's take some uses off the table that we know people are concerned about that are not going to come here. And now we're dealing with a more collective group of known uses. And if you look at those permitted uses like you talk about, it's for BN, it's not a laundry list. And I think there's some, again, that we excluded that we all know is probably never going to happen. I don't know the last time I saw a coin-operated laundry constructed out in a rural area. I don't know the last time I've seen a video store. If you do, they're usually the size of a compartment and they're red. So that's the point, is what we try to attack it the other way, Mr. Davis, is take some of the more potentially offensive uses and just take them off the table. Take the 24-hour operation off the table, take the gas pumps off the table, take the liquor store, take the bar and the tavern and those types of things. That's how we try to attack it here.
So, and I agree with a lot of things you say. I honestly do. So this parcel is actually big enough. If you wanted to put a small strip mall in there, you could do it, right?
Well, you would have whatever room would be across the frontage that you could put in there. Again, that's a building that could be multiple use building or a single use building, but we tried to show different types of uses that could be placed in there. I mean, could you have a commercial general retail building? Yes, you could. I'm not going to tell you you can't. I don't know what the square footage permitted would be, but you could.
It's kind of like over to the Woodside intersection, you know, where Walgreens is. There's 4 or 5 businesses in that little parcel of land.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that could also happen here, but we'll see that down the road when you do the site plan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is any other commissioners have any questions? I thank you, sirs. So I'm
Thank you.
going to go over to the public comment, unless somebody else on your, does anybody else on your team have anything?
I think
to
the
say?
property owner was just going to say something.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Go ahead and give your name, address, and be sworn in, please.
John Forrest, 37 Marion's Way, Felton, Delaware.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
Commissioners and really residents, when we met here a month ago, I spoke to you all about my intents for this property, and they're honest intentions. I have no plans of pump stations, gas stations, 24-hour service, liquor stores, none of that, and that's why we're willing to waive all those things on this application. I live 2 miles from this site. I raised my family. My business is 3 miles away. I have no intentions of tearing down this community. I purchased this property 7 years ago after the comp plan changed. I saw the growth on Irish Hill Road. I knew what was coming, and honestly, I'm a business person, and I thought it was the right spot. I want you to know, a lot of people after our meeting came on social media talking about, is everybody ready for a gas station? Is everybody ready for this? None of that is going in this location. I would never do that. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm not going. It's not a bait and switch where I'm asking you all to approve this, and then I switch what I'm doing once we get approval. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not going to change what we do. What John and Mike said is honest. It's what our plan is. So I know there's objections, and I respect all your opinions. So I just hope you respect my honesty on that.
I think we'll open it up to the commissioners, though. You're up there to talk to us tonight. Does any of the commissioners have any questions or anything for this particular, the owner? Anybody on the phone? Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Can I just make one more? Mike advised me to just tell you my vision for it. I do want to put a daycare center there. There's a lot of young families in that area, and I think it would it's needed in that area. The restaurant, like we spoke about before, I'm a big fan of Frederica Pizza House, so I would like to put some kind of boutique restaurant there. It could be Italian or Mexican or whatever. And the shopping center, we always thought would be a coffee shop, a bakery, and anything else, a florist, I think we talked about, just different services. Nothing, no bars. I don't want any of that there. And like I said, we're willing to take that out of scope and all that. So,
Sir,
yep.
appreciate your
Thank you.
comments. I'm going to open up the public hearing now for public comment, but before I do that, I'd like to ask a show of hands. How many here are from the Woodfield development? How many here are from the reserve at Chestnut Ridge? I know quite a few of you have sent in emails and writings to us, and we've got them all, and we've all had a chance to read them. A lot of them repeat the same reasoning for what you like or don't like. I'd like to ask that you have a representative. I really appreciate you're here and to be able to speak up, but because there's so many of you, and you're probably a lot of you are saying the same thing, I'd really appreciate it if you had a spokesman, like an HOA spokesman or whatever. But on the first part of this, I'm going to ask, is there anybody here that is for this project? Anybody here that is for this project, either here or on the phone?
If there's anyone that's on the telephone line that wants to speak in favor of this project, you can press *3 to raise your hand or reference the instructions in the chat window.
And also in the room, if there's somebody here that's for this project, my second request is raise your hand and you can come up to the mic. Third and final call, anybody here for this project?
There's no one online at this time.
Then we'll go over to the against. Is there somebody here that would like to come to the mic to speak against this project? The lady back at the podium, I can't see her face, but come on up, give your name. You can either be sworn or affirmed.
My name is Amber Sayani, and I live at 49 Cinnamon Way, Magnolia, in the reserve at Chestnut Ridge.
Do you
And
swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Proceed.
Everybody kind of looked at me to kind of come up and be our spokesperson. And the reason is because I have a letter that 174 of us have signed opposing the rezoning of this area, with 174 of us signed. 6 are from the Felton, which is because when you go right across the street, if you're from that area, it switches from Magnolia to Felton very, very quickly. So those individuals are from that area, and the rest of us are from Magnolia. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to go ahead and read that. As community members of the reserve at Chestnut Ridge and other surrounding locations near Irish Hill and Peachtree Road, we are writing in opposition to the above referenced petition to the amended zoning map. As property owners in the neighboring community of the reserve at Chestnut Ridge and the vicinity of Irish Hill and Peachtree Road, we strongly oppose the approval of this application to amend the zoning map due to the reasons listed below. Traffic has already increased in Irish Hill Road and other roads in the proximity to this location due to the increase in homes in this area. It will only increase as the other development, which is Knollwood that we've all spoken about, is planned to be built on Irish Hill Road. Any type of commercial business to Irish Hill Road will attract even more traffic to a location that is already expanding and experiencing residential growth. Crime in the vicinity of Irish Hill and Peachtree is already a concern of residents who reside in our community. It is our opinion that adding a location that has businesses and a parking lot will only provide an additional opportunity for those that participate in these criminal activities to congregate. And I can add in there, we actually experienced this in the reserve at Chestnut Ridge with our basketball court area and our pickleball court area. We actually had to go and put up a fence to keep people out because we had so many people from other areas coming in and congregating in that area with drug use and other things in that area. So we actually had to, Sharon can probably tell you how much we had to spend, but we had to spend thousands of dollars just to secure our areas and our development from people outside the development. In any type of business to be added to this proposal location, there is a high possibility that a development others would see increased traffic in our communities due to cars cutting through our communities. We have already experienced increased through traffic, and it would only be enhanced with a business located directly beside our development, which could result in safety concerns and ultimately increase expenses for our HOA to observe absorb if any type of devices were needed to combat increased speeding and traffic concerns. Loss of privacy for those homes that back up to this proposed rezoning area. Residents that purchased homes that back up to Peachtree specifically purchased these homes in order to have more privacy. In many cases, homeowners paid increased lot fees in order to have such privacy and views. Had homeowners known that a business or businesses would be placed right behind them, many would not have purchased these homes at an increased cost or at all. Increased noise from customers coming and going from any business that would be located there. Many people purchased their homes in our development in order to live in a country setting away from the noise and traffic that comes with living in town, but with the comfort and convenience of living in a residential community. By approving this rezoning application, the door would be open to eliminate some of the strongest reasons most of us purchased our homes here. Finally, due to all the reasons listed above, there is a strong possibility that the values of our homes could be negatively affected. We are sure that the applicant who is applying for this rezoning will come up and has come up with various ways to try and alleviate our concerns, but it is our request that the land designation stay as it currently is in order for our residents to continue living in the environment that we desire. As you can see, as I've said, we have 174 homeowners from the reserve at Chestnut Ridge and those that live in and around the intersection of Irish Hill and Peachtree that have signed our letter. If the citizens that this supposedly would benefit and would be most affected from this rezoning effort are the ones that strongly oppose it, shouldn't that in itself be enough to justify the disapproval of the rezoning application? For these reasons listed above, we strongly oppose the petition and request that the property remain zoned as agricultural low-density residential.
You did a great job. Good presentation. I think they picked out the right woman to do the reading. So I'd like to ask any commissioners, anybody here have any questions for this? Anybody on the phone, any of the commissioners? Seeing none, I thank you. Anybody else here in opposition? I think the gentleman in back of her was next.
My name is Robert Apito. I am from the Woodfield Development Board of Directors. We have several of the directors here.
Sir.
I live at 17 Misty Meadow Drive in
Sir, do you
Magnolia.
swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
Okay, we have 225 homes in Woodfield. We got no positive responses on this, and so I just want to repeat that because I'm going to change gears a little bit here. I've spent time on zoning boards and I've spent time on planning boards before I moved down to Delaware. Sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen. So I'd like this to be included on the record, especially for Mr. Forrest, okay? We're not going to repeat what's already written. This young lady did an excellent job of summarizing what we feel. I sent a letter and an email in myself. But I'd like to let people know that we have some of the things in Woodfield that we need help with down the pike. Hopefully, we have beautiful farms and agricultural areas, but just in case. Most people don't realize the agricultural department came into Woodfield 2.5 years ago and took a look at our sycamore tree at the front entrance. It turns out at that time, it was the 12th largest in Delaware and the 20th largest in the United States. We'd like someone to help us with possibly maintaining this tree in historic preservation. We're hoping the agricultural department comes back, but anyone wanting to address this and to let me know, unfortunately, I happen to be the president of the board of directors, and I say that jokingly, but let me know. And we have a property management company that we work with very closely, and we can move forward in a positive fashion for all the neighborhood. Also, Woodfield just happens to be the only development that still has septic. Now I know, I've seen the piping, I've seen what's coming in. Sooner or later, we're going to get sewers. You've just mentioned that the developers do make contributions. Well, if you decide to go ahead with this project, is there a possibility that we can get contribution from the developer to help us with our sewer bills or put the piping in? These are just two of the items that people have sent to me and said, please, we don't need to go through a laundry list of what we don't want. You've seen this. But please give something positive to the Planning Commission and hopefully to the levy court, letting us know that some of us, even though we don't always like what's happening, do want to look down the pike. I now will take any questions that anybody wants to ask.
Any commissioners have any questions for this individual?
I got one. Sir, I know you got a nice development there. Woodfield's a very nice development, but really, what's your opposition to this application?
Well, as we have stated, I was the person that wrote the letter that I thought that the the neighborhood business as the new proposed plan was nice, but it was written years ago. And there are so many things that are changing right now. I don't know if any of you just turn on the news or, turn on the financial news with Bitcoin and all of the things that are coming down and old Robinhood and all these new companies. I'm not sure, and we mentioned video stores. I don't want to see another Blockbuster video going in there, and this gentleman, 2 or 3 years from now, loses several $100,000 or $1 million, and we have a neighborhood with empty buildings that turn the neighborhood around. If you recollect, and if anybody has been through Woodfield before 2 years ago, we had an old white barn that we inherited, and we had to pay ourselves to get it knocked down. It was $24,000. Okay? The police were ecstatic because it became a haven for drug and a haven for homeless people. We would board it up, and the next morning the boards were pushed in and people would be living there. So we don't want to see empty buildings or things like that. And I'm sure I can go get back more and more, but I do think that sometimes development should go slow, especially in this environment. It's wonderful that the gentleman bought I believe you said in around 2014, bought the property. It was a different world in 2014 right now than it is right now. And I want to just make that case that please go slow, take a good look at what you're doing, because once you change that zoning, it's like making an omelet. Once you crack the egg, it's kind of hard to get it back in the shell. I'll take any other questions.
Thank you, sir. Ask the commissioners, anybody else have any questions for him? Anybody on the phone there, Mark? Thank you for your comments. Appreciate
Thank you very
it,
much.
and I appreciate your points.
Thank you.
Anybody else here opposed? I think I might know this gentleman.
Name and
White,
address.
164 Winter Circle, Magnolia, Delaware.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
All right, I've been living in Irish Hill Road for nearly 30 years at Double Run Hunt Club. I've seen a lot of changes. There's no commercial zoning on Irish Hill Road, Woodley Town, Peachtree, Fox Chase, unless you get into Woodside. And I kind of think that if you did a rezoning change here, it's almost like spot zoning, because there's nothing within miles. Spot zoning is not illegal, but I think it's kind of unethical, questionable, and inappropriate. And in this area, I think that would apply. You can get the Woodside from my house in less than 15 minutes. I can get the Linkside in 10 minutes. I can get the Felton in 15. There's plenty of places around there. There's even 3 daycare centers within 5 miles of that area. So effectively, if it's approved for BN zoning, I know that the applicant is probably sincere as he can be, but I believe the zoning would go with the land. Is that correct, Sarah?
Always.
It is?
Yes, zoning
Okay.
always goes with the
So if it
land.
goes with the land and he sells it, whatever he says, does that go with the land unless he deeds it in? And then the highest profit, the highest bid or highest money maker will come in there, regardless of what a businessman says. They're going to follow the money. So I'm just concerned about that. Then there's the thing about the comprehensive plan. There's a portion of a vision statement of the comp plan. It says to preserve the rural and community character of Kent County by encouraging the most appropriate use of land, water, and other resources. The whole area is residential. We have BN in various directions. We can use Irish Hill, McGinnis Pond, Woodley Town, Anderson Road, Peachtree Road, Route 13, Route 1, to get to wherever we need to. And then there's a question that it's going to reduce traffic. I don't think it will. You're going to have people who live along Barracks Chapel Road, McGinnis Pond Road, Anderson Road, who've already told me that they would drive there because they wouldn't want to drive into Frederica. It would be closer for them in some cases. So you're going to have more traffic coming in there than it's supposed to reduce. And there was a study I saw on the internet, and I think it was by the Texas Institute of Transportation, I believe, where they found out that the person who walks will walk no more than a half a mile to a store. But even though they can walk, most of them will still drive the car. And the average person will drive 3 to 5 miles to a store while they pass 1 or 2 stores of the same type with the same product and similar products, because they go where they like the store, they go where the prices are the best, they go where it's convenient for them. And being the closest is not the convenient, because there's other factors that come into play. So that's just another thing, to consider. And another fear is, if you approve of BN zoning, it will open the door, like the other gentleman said, for other areas, maybe the farm across the street off Irish Hill Road, or as you're heading towards Canterbury, whatever remaining land has not been sold for residential, you can bet that somebody's going to approach them and want a rezoning for BN or some other type of commercial. And then we have more problems. I realize the county is not responsible for the roads or the traffic, but what your decision does on approving will have a direct impact on the roads and the residents who live in that area. And as Mr. Davis was saying, you guys still don't have a lot of information from DelDOT about what they're going to do. There's a lot of hearsay. So I think it'd be kind of inappropriate to decide on this before you know what DelDOT's going to do. And you approve the BN zoning, not only, like I said, it goes with the land, but you have so many uses there, then those uses can change if the land is sold. But then all the residents who live there, they no longer have a voice. Because once it's approved, then anything can go there that's in that BN classification, and the residents cannot say anything about it. So I don't think that's a fair democracy. So in conclusion, I asked the Regional Planning Commission to deny this application. I think there's some uses under AC that the landowner can still use under there. I didn't bring my zoning book with me, so I'm not sure, but I think there is a couple uses. I'm not sure if daycare is under there, but I thought it was. But anyways, I just think it needs to be denied for those reasons.
Does any of the commissioners have anything for this gentleman? Mr. Mills?
You mentioned a while ago the increase in traffic. What, in your opinion, is the amount of traffic is going to increase other than what these developments have already got the traffic coming in now? And you take Woodfield, as the gentleman just mentioned, it's 225 residents. That's 2 cars each resident. That's 500 cars right there that the development is creating. The other development's 134, that's close to another 500 cars that they're creating. So what is this development here? What is going to create traffic any more than what's already there now?
Well, right now, there's probably 4,000 or 4,500 lots that are already approved for residential. And who knows when even though it's in the traffic impact study zone or TID, DelDOT hasn't, I don't think they can give us an idea when they're going to do anything there with these traffic circles, you know, and there's really not many shoulders along Irish Hill Road. There's a couple in front of Chestnut Ridge, and there's right in front of Peachtree, but that's a gravel one. So and going into Magnolia, there are no shoulders, and going into Canterbury, there are no shoulders. So DelDOT needs to get ahead of the horse instead of, get ahead of the cart instead of putting the cart first. Let's find out what DelDOT's going to do.
Wouldn't Del be required to do their work before this development could even start to existence?
But it hasn't worked the way it's working in the past. You know, the residents have been living there, and we got a lot invested. I know that the landowner's got a lot invested. He's got options, whether it's denied or approved. Our only option, if we don't like it, is to sell and move.
So if this was this zoning reduced to general business, and a plan from DelDOT put first before this development starts existing, would you be satisfied with that?
I'd have to read it, but you have to keep in mind that you put a BN there, you're going to because people will drive 3 to 5 miles to a store even though they're passing other stores. So you're going to have people from Barracks Chapel Road to people who live up on Anderson Road and that big subdivision between McGinnis Pond Road and Anderson Road. Great possibility they're going to travel there. The people that live along Barracks Chapel Road, like in Lexington Mill, and the other homes that are going up along Barracks Chapel Road, they're going to travel there because they're going to be only a mile and a half there. But you're going to end up with you're literally going to end up with more traffic with the BN than you would if it stayed residential.
But the gentleman already testified a while ago that they're not going to put businesses there that are going to generate a large number of traffic.
The business? Are you saying the business will or the homes will?
Well, the business that they said that they want to put there is one is a daycare, two is offices.
Yeah, depending on the offices, you're going to have cars coming and going each day. And the parents are going to come in the morning, they're going to leave in the afternoon, and it all depends on how many kids the daycare is going to be. Is it going to be 10, 20, 30, 40? So there you're going to have 100 trips a day right there if it's 50 kids. And then an office, depending on the office, you can have another 50 cars a day. So I don't see the gain by the BN. And I think a lot of residents don't see that gain either.
That answer your question, sir? Yeah, we'll be able to answer a lot of those. Sometimes the way the plans come out, the zoning change, and then the site plans come out, DelDOT doesn't get into it, but then they make the developer pay for a lot of that road work that would improve the area. So I don't think I'm speaking out, Mr. Riemann. I think you're agreeing
Well, the
on
other,
that.
well,
So I thank you for your comments. I appreciate them. And is there any other commissioners have anything of this man? Thank you, sir.
No problem. Have a good evening. Have a good 4th of July.
Come back again and see us again.
Will do.
Is there anybody else here opposed to this and have anything to offer different than what's been said? Ma'am, come up to the mic, give your name, your address, and you will be either sworn or affirmed.
My name is Sharon Wright. I live at 70 Bushel Circle in Magnolia in the reserve of Chestnut Ridge.
Ms. Wright, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole
Yes.
truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Proceed.
Okay. I'm also on the board of the HOA. Now, I have spoken with Mr. Tracy, and we are planning to have a discussion about the land usage between, can we go back to the first PowerPoint thing, where it shows the property? Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a bigger one. I think it was a bigger one they showed. That was probably the last one that we had. Oh, okay. anyway, we were talking about the land, the now Peachtree Road, and how we're supposed to get the other 25 feet of length. Now, it's a concern for us because we have to now pay to maintain through our landscapers, plus our insurance, because now it's common area, which will increase our insurance. So we haven't had that discussion as to what we're going to do, but that's something we have to take into consideration. The other thing is, we talked about restaurants, coffee shops, bakery. Okay, they're all fine and dandy, except if they're not well maintained, then we are talking about trash. We have a big problem of people throwing trash out of their cars, ending up on our property, that we have to have people go out and clean it, which is not right. I mean, they just toss it and we get it. So we're talking about food preparation. Now, we have a lot of wildlife. If those places are not very well cleaned, we're talking about varmints coming in. And it's grass. They're going to come over into the homes. So, I mean, Mr. Forrest is a very nice man. I've done business with him. He put in our fence around our sports area. And for the reasons that Amber had said, because we had too many outside people. The other thing is, I forgot where I was going with this. Oh. No, I forgot what I was going to say. But anyway, we're talking about like I said, he has good intentions of having these nice little coffee shops and things, and they all sound nice. But we all know that down Peachtree Road, there's a little convenience store called Ernie's. Have anybody been past Ernie's lately? Not a very nice place. I'm sure one day it was a beautiful place, nice clean environment, nice convenience store, easy for people in the area to walk to. Well, it looks terrible. It's falling apart. You know where Ernie's is? Yeah. And right across the street is the Woodside Liquor Store, which is, they've improved themselves, so they look a lot better. But we're afraid we're going to end up with that, because Mr. Tracy and Mr. Forrest cannot guarantee who's going to take up residence in this business part. The daycare is fine. Anything if it's going to have to be developed, I would rather see something that's going to be just day hours, 9 to 5, no weekends. That will cut down on the traffic. But if you have coffee shops, you're going to have people coming from all over. Look at Starbucks. You go down 13 and everybody's heading for Starbucks. There was McDonald's, and there's Burger King, and there's Wawa and Royal Farms. They could all stop and have coffee, but no, they head down to Starbucks. If you have a nice little coffee shop, you're going to have people coming from all over to that coffee shop. So that's my main concern, is the increased traffic. Again, we talked about people hanging out there. We've just had an incident just last night. Somebody complained that they had somebody coming up on their door, going around their property. They caught it on their Ring cameras. So we're concerned about the increase of crime, because we are a nice area. People think there's money to be had. We've had car breaks in, whether people lock it or don't lock it. We've had things stolen. We've had kids' bikes stolen off the front porch. You just think you open up a can of worms here. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll ask the commissioners, does anybody here have any questions for this young lady? Mr. Peterman?
Ma'am, you're worrying about the trash. You can see that that's going to be shrubbed all the way around. So the trash shouldn't, from my opinion, the trash shouldn't get to your development. And you was worried about more crime in the area, it sounded like. And you're saying they're stealing the bikes off your front porch now?
Yeah, we've had it. We've had
So
it happen.
that's not increasing that problem. That problem was there. I'm not condemning you. I'm against the thieves too. I don't know what you can do about that except call the cops, because we had nothing to do that. We don't police it. I agree with you. It's out of character of your neighborhood, because you got a beautiful neighborhood. And I hope it stays that way. And if this passes, I hope it complements your neighborhood. And from what I can see, I don't see how it can't complement your neighborhood from what I've heard. And I hope that if it does pass, it complements your neighborhood very, very well. And I hope your neighborhood complements that very well. If there is a bakery there, or a coffee shop, or a daycare center, I hope it would be very, very helpful to the people in your neighborhood.
And if they-
I don't know that because it's not happened yet. And nobody can know it until it happens. And we definitely don't want to do anything that's going to downgrade stuff. But when there's not enough police officers, for an example, to cover every house, we don't hire them. We don't patrol it. And I'm sorry, but I just want to tell you the truth, that we can't control that. We can only do what we think is best for the public and things like that. And I would just say, that's why I said, I just hope that if it is approved, it would complement your housing development greatly. And I want to tell you, thank you for your concern about that.
Well, I understand that you can't patrol our area, but we're now setting up an area where more people can meet and hang out and be, accessible. Where now it's just an empty space. You'll see people hanging out. You don't see anybody hanging out there, but once you have businesses there, people can hang out.
I understand that, and if that lot stays empty, they're going to hang out there.
Well, I haven't seen that problem.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. Peter. Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
And I thank you,
ma'am.
man.
And I thank you, and I have the same problem as I mature about keeping my sentences going. So I think we're not aging or getting older. It's maturity is what I call it. So
It's too much information up here.
there you go. Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else here that has anything they'd like to say? Sir, I think you're next, and then ma'am, I'll come to you in the back.
Good evening. I'm James D. Donato, 136 Winters Circle in Magnolia, 19962. And
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
I'm going to put a slightly different spin on this conversation. I think some of the points that have been made by the residents have been very valid. I'm concerned because I built in this area, specifically Double Run Hunt Club, 21 years ago. And like hundreds of people who followed me, who came before me, they came to Kent County Levy Court Planning Commission to find out what is going on in this swath of real estate that we call the residential growth zone along Irish Hill Road. I remember speaking with Mike Petty-Dimash at the time and getting a pretty clear understanding that where I was about to build was a residential growth zone. And the zoning was all laid out for me. It was crystal clear. I feel a sense that I'm about to be perhaps betrayed because I feel that I invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in my property based on what my representative government told me 21 years ago. The Kent County Planning Commission told me that this swath of ground that extends from, say, Sofers Row over to Canterbury Light, I'm just generally calling that the Irish Hill Corridor, was for residential growth. And indeed, it has been. Lord knows it has been. But I feel that it's disingenuous to then change the game after people have invested their life savings to make beautiful homes in this area. And disingenuous is not a word that I use often, but I believe it's disingenuous to represent that this residential swath is crying out for goods and services. I would be willing to bet that there's nobody else in the room, including myself, who's suffering for lack of a gallon of gas or a loaf of bread along this area. We have establishments that are very close. Even your wonderful Kent County Public Library, of which I'm a big participant, is a skip and a jump away. So facilities, whether it be goods or services, are not far from us. We are not crying out for goods and services in this area. And lastly, the point I'd like to make, I am not a small business owner, but as I've gotten older, I've come to have great respect for small business owners, and I try to frequent their businesses more than the big box stores. For example, I'm a big fan of Felton Hardware, and Rod, who owns it, and great guy. And what did they sign on for? What was their understanding when they spent their life savings to develop these small mom and pop businesses, understanding that within a certain radius of their business, there wasn't going to be competition? Now, I understand that certain types of businesses have been excluded, and that's commendable, I think. I really do. But nonetheless, there are lots of businesses who, like home builders, business builders, have broken ground, have established, put their hearts into their businesses based on understandings that this body, this elected body, has represented to them. And I think that's pause for deliberation on your part. So, having said that, I stand opposed to it, but I have great respect for the owner because it takes a lot of guts to buy and develop property. I do have a question, if I may ask it. I'd like to know if this rezoning is granted, is one option that the owner does not develop it at all? Is that an option, that it not be developed at all?
If the rezoning passes?
Yes, by you, that is to say. I want to be clear, my question.
Yeah, you probably better come to the mic.
Thank you.
And explain who you are again for the answer.
John Forrest, 37 Marion's Way, Felton, Delaware. Oh, I'm good. I'm sorry, I just want to understand the question. So, if the zoning passes,
will you develop it?
I will develop it. It's a 4 to 5 year plan. Okay. So, yes.
I didn't know.
Okay.
I was wondering if one option was that it be resold.
It's not my intent to sell it.
Okay. Because I could see, with very little effort, the property is rezoned, and now suddenly the owner has a sweetheart situation. He puts it on the market because now it's a business neighborhood. Now, I believe you. I take you at your word. So, but I didn't know that 5 minutes ago, so that's why I asked the question. But I hope that you can understand the concern. The graphic that was displayed earlier of the hypothetical business park was very nice. It looked nice. I would go so far as to say that every car that's ever been built and sold looks pretty good in the showroom. And it doesn't always work out that way. So I want to leave you with that thought. I appreciate your time.
Don't go down yet, sir. I'll ask the commissioners if anybody has a question. Anybody here have a question for this gentleman? Mr. Mills?
Yeah, you made mention of the fact that there were plenty of places for everybody to shop in and around. This is not actually a shopping development that he's proposed. Did you understand what he said when
I saw the exclusions, Commissioner?
When the slide came up there where he said he was not going to have service stations of any type
I
of
certainly
service?
did. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
But it is nonetheless a business park. That's my terminology. There might be a better word for it. But there is the opportunity to have businesses, and daycare is a business. My contention is that nobody along the Irish Hill Peachtree residential growth zone is suffering for lack of services or, for that matter, goods. You know, one end of the road, there's a bank. Well, I don't need to go through the list.
Right.
Your commissioners, I think you know darn well what the businesses are.
And I appreciate your comments, especially about Felton Hardware. It's been there for many years. His father started it and his grandfather. And we at the Felton Fire Company could not function without that hardware in place. So
Rod works very hard at what he does.
If he doesn't have it, you probably don't need it.
And he knows just which aisle it's located on.
Thanks, sir. Great comments. Anybody else here? The young lady in the back, I think, is coming up. As she comes up, like I said, if anybody has anything separate from what's been said, I certainly don't mind you coming to the mic, but we just don't need the repetition all the time. And I really appreciate you coming out on such a bad night with the storms and the rain and all. And I think you have been heard for what you're trying to make. So I'll go to the lady at the mic for her name and address.
My name's Ann Helby, 194 Woodfield Parkway in Magnolia.
Do you
Delaware.
swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Swear.
Proceed.
All right, I know that one of the commissioners had a question about the traffic. Why would it be more? Because you already have, both of the homeowners associations that are there now that have many vehicles. Well, when you are talking about what we just saw, you have a daycare. The daycare is going to have more traffic going in and coming out. And it has to be also brought to the attention, is the daycare going to have the same hours as school? And if it does, are the buses going to run into the same problem as the other cars? People will be going to the restaurant. They'll be going to the restaurant and coming from the restaurant all different hours whenever it's open. So it's more cars. Whatever offices are going to be there or stores, whichever they may be, that's still more traffic. And we already have traffic problems in Woodfield. We have racers. They think that's the speedway. And so we don't need other stuff. And I don't have much more to give than anyone else said, but I do, when I was listening to other people, I have seen Ernie's very often, and I don't want to see that in the future for the places up in the corner there where, I don't want to put a damper on anybody's dream of what they wanted to do there, but at the same time, I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see everything fall into dishevelment. And someone else had said something about only have hours during the day. If we only have hours during the day, what's going to happen at night? There's already tons of crime. There's a mess out there. Do we have more police to patrol this? I mean, there's a lot of little things that have to be added together, and it's just a lot. So no, I'm not for it, but I don't have anything else to say. Thank you.
You did a great job. Thank you very much. And I'll ask the commissioners, does anybody here or on the phone have any questions for this young lady? Seeing none, I thank you once again for taking your time. That's how government works. Appreciate it. Anybody else here have anything to add to any of the against comp gentlemen in the back?
Mike Tucci, 669 Tullamore Court, Magnolia, resident of Irish Hill subdivision. And yes, I swear and affirm.
Sir, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Proceed.
A lot of good points mentioned tonight. Just want to ask a few other questions. People brought up the potential for more crime, especially in the evenings when no one's around. That would probably produce more light, more need for lights around the businesses, which creates light pollution, which makes it hard for neighboring homes to have their small children fall asleep at night. It creates magnets for pretty much everything in the area. It draws in people, draws in animals, draws in more sounds. I know, being in Irish Hill, I like going out on my deck in my house, and it's dark out there. We move out here for open skies and peace and quiet at night. And I think just light pollution is just something no one's mentioned yet. I know you want to keep it in new items, so light pollution's one. And I was doing a quick online search, so please correct me if I'm incorrect here. There's conditional uses for BN zoning. I'm curious what some of those conditions would be. Like child care center falls under conditional uses. What conditions would have to be met to have a child care center?
Each condition is dependent on the specific use. For child care centers, there are conditions about setbacks, access, things like that. Most of them contain requirements for buffers and whatnot, but it's specific to each use.
Now, there's other items on this conditional list of potential businesses that were not on the list of businesses that would be not put in. And I know some of them sound really strange to put in this location, but I'm curious if there's any chance these could take place, like a detention or correctional institution. It's on the list of things it could be. A funeral establishment. You brought up restaurants earlier. They have dumpsters. What goes in the dumpster? Things that smell. If you've ever seen a dumpster at any restaurant, it's not a place you want to be. Those smells are going to go towards the communities, and we're going to have to smell it, and it's going to draw animals, and it's going to be more of a mess. I think that's pretty much it.
You all have to keep in mind, too, that this is just a zoning type change.
Correct.
He'll eventually come back with a site plan and all the things like that. You can once again attend the meetings to see about the shading or the landscaping and all like that if this does pass. I'm not saying it will or won't. I'm just saying you have other ways to address these concerns that you have as we move down the line. And I appreciate all your comments. Anybody here have any questions for this individual? Anybody on the phone, Mark?
Had one more comment, if you don't mind.
Okay, one more.
I know several years back, the intersection of Woodley Town Road and Irish Hill Road, there's that one triangular lot. It's about 6 acres in size. I don't remember the years or the details. I just know someone tried to turn it into a business property and it never got there. And it sat vacant for a long time. The county just came by and mowed it. Someone eventually put a house on it. So long term, it'd be very easy with a 9-acre lot to put 3 homes on it, 3 country homes, to enhance the beauty we already have here. We don't have to go business with this. And as somebody did mention earlier, the lots aren't spoken for already. Once a precedent's set that zoning can change, it's an easier battle for future lot owners to get zoning changes.
Sir, we don't take comments from the gallery. You have to be up to the phone, you have to be up to the mic and be sworn in. So after this gentleman's done, you can come up and say what you like. Are you done, sir?
I think I am now. Sorry about the
I
second
appreciate
thought.
that, but everything we do has to be in our minutes and all like that. So whatever we do, it has to be sworn at the mic, give your location, then we have ways of then knowing who you are. Thanks, sir. I appreciate your comments. Sir, did you have something you like to say at the mic? You was up there earlier, though, weren't you? Yes. We usually don't go. I will take a very brief question.
I want to respond to his question. He said you can put 3 houses on the corner. Right now, it's zoned for 97 homes. That corner is zoned for 97 homes. It was originally Phase 4 of Woodfield. So, and Mr. Bailey went bankrupt. So that's how the property went up for sale.
Yeah, it has nothing to do, sir, so I appreciate your comment, but thank you.
Yeah, I thank you.
Anybody else have anything against this project and would like to say something? Last call. Last call. If not, then this project is closed for tonight, and we'll look to see you, or you can come to our business meeting next week as we vote on it. Thank you. We're now down to public comment. Anybody have anything they'd like to say besides on what they mentioned on this project? Anybody have anything to say? If not, move on to commissioner comments. Anybody on the phone for public comment or commissioner comments? Mark? Okay, go ahead.
Mrs. Spanarelli, you may go ahead.
I just had questions about some of the people and the concerns about other
Excuse me, our meeting is not over. We need quiet and all. It hasn't been adjourned. If you want to talk or anything, I'm not trying to be bad or nasty, but you'll have to either go out in the hall or wait till we adjourn the meeting. What's Mr. Spanarelli like to say? Go ahead.
I just had a concern about the people's concern about traffic and other things that, as you said, would be settled down the road when they submit the site plan. I hope they realize it and realize that the only thing we're discussing tonight is zone changing.
That's correct. We've already brought that up. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that comment. Any other business? Any other business to bring before the commission? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Sarah, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mr. Servon?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Yes.
Mr. Spanarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes, and happy 4th of July, everyone, and God bless our great country, the United States of America.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Thank you all for coming. We are now adjourned.